The 7-Year Lie, a husband's shocking discovery. Ziana Kapoor, 36, grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Mysore, a quiet city known for its old temples and calm streets. Her dad taught math at a local school, and her mom stitched clothes to help the family get by. Even though they didn't have much money, they always taught Ziana the value of hard work, discipline, and being independent. As a kid, Ziana wasn't like other children. While most were outside playing, she spent hours flipping through magazines about home design and architecture at the local library. She loved beauty, order, and creativity in spaces. That passion stuck with her. She finished high school with top grades and got accepted into a respected design college in Bangalore. There, she found her calling. Her work was smart, stylish, and ahead of its time. After college, she joined a small design firm. Within 3 years, she became one of the top names in Bangalore's luxury design world. Rich clients loved her work, a mix of modern trends and traditional elegance. Ziana knew how to handle high-end customers. She spoke with charm, knew when to stay quiet, and when to speak up. People saw her as confident, sharp, and always perfectly put together. Even with success, she kept her personal life quiet. She didn't trust people easily and always kept her guard up. Then, in 2002, she met Ishan Singh at a military event in Delhi. He was a rising officer in the army, just promoted, and one of the people being honored that evening. Ziana attended the event with one of her wealthy clients. She wore a light blue sari and looked calm, classy, and confident. Their meeting was by chance. She accidentally dropped her wallet at a reception table, and Ishan picked it up. He smiled as he handed it back. That small moment turned into a long conversation. They talked about his job in the army, her design work, and their thoughts on life. Ishan liked her smart, calm way of speaking, and Ziana was drawn to his kindness. What seemed like the start of a beautiful love story would, years later, unravel into a dark and painful truth that no one saw coming. Even though Ziana was always careful around charming men, something about Ishan felt different. He didn't try too hard. He was calm, mature, and honest. For once, she didn't feel the need to keep her guard up. Their talk at the event felt natural, like they'd known each other for years. He spoke about the tough army life, the discipline, the loyalty it demanded. She told him about how hard it was to build a career in a field filled with older, more experienced designers. When the evening ended, Ishan offered to walk her to her car. Before they said goodbye, he handed her a small card with his military contact. Ziana smiled and took it, but deep down, she knew this wasn't just another polite exchange. That short meeting left a mark on her. Ishan Singh, now 42, was a colonel in the Indian Army. People knew him for his strict discipline and unshakable sense of honor. He grew up in a small village near Amritsar, Punjab, a place known for its proud and strong-willed people. His father was a retired army man, and his mother taught literature. In their house, values like loyalty and honesty were part of daily life. As a boy, Ishan dreamed of wearing the army uniform. He worked hard and got into the National Defense Academy, where future army leaders are trained. He graduated with top marks and quickly climbed the ranks. In over 2 decades of service, he was sent to dangerous areas like the Kashmir border and earned respect for leading with both courage and care for his team. He received high honors, medals for bravery, strategy, and leadership. But off the battlefield, he was quiet, thoughtful, and respected as a guest lecturer at the Hyderabad Military Academy, where he taught young cadets how to lead with both strength and heart. A few days after the event, when Ziana had almost forgotten about it, she got a message from an unknown number. It was short, polite, but it felt genuine. She didn't reply right away, but something about the sender stayed in her mind. Later that night, curiosity got the better of her, and she sent a soft reply. That message turned into many. At first, they kept things light: work, daily routines, casual updates. But soon, their words became deeper. He told her about army life, long days away from home, the loneliness behind his firm expression. She opened up about her job too, the pressure of always being perfect, the competition, and the need to prove herself as a woman in a tough industry. They began to wait for each other's messages. He would text her late at night from his military base. She'd check her phone after finishing up her work for the day. Sometimes they'd manage to meet, maybe a quick coffee when he was in Delhi, or a walk through Bangalore's old neighborhoods during his leave. But even as their bond grew stronger, it came with quiet struggles. Ishan lived in a world where feelings were kept inside. He was bound by duty, by rules, by the life of a soldier. And Ziana, no matter how strong or smart she was, still feared what it meant to truly fall for someone. Being with a man like Ishan meant accepting silence, waiting, and sudden distance with no explanation. Still, after nearly 2 years of knowing each other, after all the quiet moments and deep talks, Ishan Veer Singh knew one thing for sure: Ziana wasn't just someone he cared for. She was the woman he wanted to build a life with. She was the one who made him question the rules he'd lived by all his life. In February 2004, during a rare break from duty, Ishan Veer did something he never thought he would. He decided to propose. That evening, the air in Bangalore was cool and damp from the rain. He invited Ziana to a small rooftop restaurant, one with a quiet charm and a full view of the glowing city below. It wasn't a fancy place or anything grand, but he knew she liked things that were elegant, simple, and meaningful. Ziana arrived in a soft olive green silk dress. Her makeup was light, but her eyes sparkled, and her gentle smile made his heart ache in the best way. They had dinner like usual, calm, quiet, comfortable. But under the table, Ishan Veer's hand clutched a small ring box. When dessert arrived, he drew a deep breath and looked into her eyes. For once, those steady eyes of his were trembling just a little. Ziana looked up at him, still smiling. He reached across the table and placed the small velvet box between them. Inside was a platinum ring, elegant, with a modest diamond that shimmered without trying too hard. Just like her. Ziana was caught off guard. For a few seconds, she didn't say anything. Her eyes glistened, her lips parted in surprise. She had never imagined that this strong, quiet man could look at her with so much hope in his eyes. She nodded, softly. Tears welled up. Ishan Veer reached out, held her hand firmly, and smiled, not his usual polite smile, but one that showed his heart. He knew, from that moment on, he wouldn't be alone again. Later that year, in the quiet of autumn, they got married. Their wedding wasn't extravagant. It didn't need to be. It was warm, thoughtful, and deeply personal. Held at a small resort tucked into the lush green hills outside Bangalore. Only close family and a few dear friends were present. Ziana wore an ivory gold sari, hand-embroidered by artisans she had worked with. Ishan Veer wore his formal army uniform, medals catching the early morning sunlight. There were no big crowds, no loud music. Just soft blessings, heartfelt glances, and quiet moments that said more than words ever could. It wasn't just a wedding, it was the start of a real partnership. A shared life. Afterwards, they moved to Madikeri in Cork, a hill town known for its coffee plantations and peaceful air. It was a joint decision. Ziana wanted a quiet place to find creative inspiration, and Ishan Veer needed a home that gave him peace after long army tours. They bought a wooden house tucked between trees, with a stone path and a balcony that looked out over the valley. Ziana designed everything inside herself: a cozy kitchen with wooden shelves, a living room filled with her hand-painted art and lamps from Rajasthan, and a tidy little office for Ishan, lined with army books and maps. Their mornings began with tea on the balcony, watching the mist roll away from the hills. Ziana worked in her small studio nearby, designing and taking occasional projects from Bangalore. When Ishan was home, they would walk hand in hand along the red dirt trails around the hills, talking about everyday things. Some evenings, he'd read under the yellow glow of a lamp while she edited her designs beside him. At times, he would just watch her quietly, his gaze full of pride and peace. Like a man who had spent years in battle but had finally found his true refuge. Their quiet world grew brighter when children came along. In 2006, 2 years into their marriage, Ziana gave birth to their first son, Aryan. On the day he was born, Ishan Veer was on a mission at the border. When he got the news, he immediately asked for leave. He walked into the hospital still in uniform, covered in dust, and gently picked up his newborn son. Ziana couldn't hold back her tears. Not from exhaustion, but because she knew this moment made her life feel whole. Aryan grew up to be thoughtful and calm, with his father's quiet strength and deep gaze. But he also had his mother's gentle heart, kind, polite, always noticing things before speaking. 3 years later, in 2009, came Kabir, a surprise, but a joyful one. Where Aryan was steady and mature, Kabir was all sunshine and energy. He brought laughter, chaos, and warmth that lit up their already happy home. Kabir had bright, curious eyes and a smile that lit up every room. He loved to explore the world around him, always asking questions and running after butterflies in the garden. Their little wooden home in the Korg Valley had become a quiet paradise filled with laughter, love, and the joyful noise of 2 growing boys. Each morning, Ziana would make breakfast in their warm, sunlit kitchen while Aryan and Kabir dashed around the dining table, excitedly sharing stories from school. When Ishanvir was home, he'd rise early to take the boys out to the garden. He showed them how to plant trees, taught them the names of birds, and told them stories about courage, honor, and doing what's right, even when it's hard. Evenings were always special. Aryan would read beside his father while Kabir curled up on Ziana's lap, listening to fairy tales. Sometimes, Ishanvir would show them how to make their beds like little soldiers or teach them how to march in step, which always made Ziana laugh and smile. Motherhood wasn't easy for Ziana, but she cherished it. She taught her boys how to be gentle, kind, and grateful. Ishanvir, in his quiet, firm way, taught them discipline and respect. Together, they were raising two children who knew both softness and strength, who could explore freely but still understood rules and responsibility. Their life felt whole, like a picture of happiness. Aryan and Kabir were the missing pieces that completed their world in the Green Hills. No grand gestures were needed. Just one glance, one warm smile between them was enough to say, "This is everything we need." To anyone looking in, Ziana and Ishanvir had the perfect life. A brave, upright soldier. A smart, graceful wife. Two well-behaved boys. A peaceful home surrounded by nature. It was a dream come true. But over time, reality crept in, slowly, quietly, without warning. Ishanvir's duty pulled him away more often. Long deployments, sudden missions, training that lasted weeks or months, his absences became a regular part of life. Ziana kept the house running. She cooked beautiful meals, but sometimes only 3 plates were set at the table. On birthdays and holidays, she would smile for the children, explaining why Papa couldn't come home. She was still successful in her career. Clients in Bangalore still praised her work. But when she came back to that quiet house, when she wiped down an untouched kitchen or sat alone on the balcony with the rain tapping gently against the roof, the loneliness crept in. No matter how strong she was, the silence started to weigh her down. Some nights, after tucking the boys into bed, Ziana would sit alone in her studio, staring at the soft glow of a lamp on the wall. She would send a message to Ishanvir. His replies were always short, polite, and respectful, but distant. She knew he was busy, and she never wanted to complain. But deep inside, she longed for more. She loved him. She respected him. But she was still human. And slowly, the distance between them became a quiet ache. At events and gatherings, surrounded by people who admired her beauty and success, Ziana felt the temptation. Not just physical, but emotional. The smallest glance, a compliment, a man who asked how she was doing, it was enough to make her tired heart flutter for just a moment. It was at a design conference in Bangalore that she met Rajesh Mehta. A few years older than her, he was a successful real estate businessman. Smart, polished, and a good listener. At first, Ziana kept things formal. She reminded herself to be careful, to stay grounded. But on those nights when Ishanvir didn't come home, when her messages were met with silence, Rajesh's attention felt like a gentle hand resting on a lonely shoulder. He never crossed the line. He simply listened. He told her she was not only beautiful, but wise, brave, and strong. He made her feel seen, important, cherished. Their connection deepened slowly, quiet dinners in a corner restaurant, conversations after long workdays. No one around them knew. Ziana knew the line she was walking was dangerous. But when she looked into Rajesh's soft, patient eyes, her heart betrayed her. One rainy evening, after a big event, Rajesh drove her home. They sat in the car in silence for a moment. Then he gently placed his hand on hers. She didn't pull away. And in that single moment, everything changed. From that night on, their relationship turned into something more than friendship. Messages became personal. Meetings became secret. She lived caught between her duty as a wife and her quiet craving to feel loved again, to be seen as a woman, not just a mother or a soldier's wife. Ishanvir never suspected anything. He wasn't the jealous type. He believed in loyalty and trusted his wife with his whole heart. But sometimes, the people who trust the most are the ones who get hurt the deepest. Over the years, when he came home from long tours, he began to notice small things that didn't feel right. And then, there was Aryan. The boy he had cradled in his arms on the day he was born had grown into a young man whose features no longer seemed to mirror his own. The curve of his smile, the shape of his eyes, the way he looked, the things he said, it all started to feel unfamiliar. One day, at a formal event with Ziana, Ishanvir met Rajesh Mehta face to face. Just one glance. But it was enough. Enough to make something inside him crack. From that moment on, a quiet storm began to stir in his heart, an ache of suspicion, betrayal, and heartbreak he didn't want to believe was real. Little things started to add up, calls Ziana couldn't explain, messages that vanished from her phone. The way she hesitated when Ishanvir asked simple questions. Her eyes didn't meet his the same way anymore. And slowly, what started as quiet doubt in his heart turned into a storm he couldn't stop. Ishanvir, a man who once believed deeply in truth and loyalty, decided to find the truth for himself. Silently, he collected strands of hair from both Aryan and Kabir. He sent them to a private lab in Bangalore under a false name. He told no one. The weight nearly broke him. Each night dragged on like a lifetime. He watched his sons laugh, chase each other in the garden, hold his hand, and it hurt. A part of him begged to believe everything was fine. But another part couldn't stop the crashing wave of suspicion inside. And then the results arrived. It was a gray, rainy afternoon. The sky hung low over Cork, and the hills were covered in mist when the envelope was delivered. Ishanvir's hands shook as he opened it. What he read broke something deep inside him. The words on that paper were cold and cruel. They stripped away everything he had believed in, his love, his faith, his trust. He sat frozen for hours, the report clutched in his hands. The strong soldier, the one who had once stood tall in the face of war, now looked like a man hollowed out from within. In just a few printed lines, his world crumbled. Doubt turned into betrayal. Hurt turned into rage. On November 12, 2014, Ishanvir hosted a small gathering at their villa. He told everyone it was a celebration, marking the end of a long mission, a warm family reunion. Ziana didn't question it. Her husband was always organized, always calm. Why would this time be any different? Rajesh was invited, too. Of course he was. He was a trusted family friend, a business partner. No one knew what lay behind Ishanvir's steady smile that evening. The party was quiet, pleasant on the surface. Ishanvir played the perfect host, serving wine, chatting politely, even sharing jokes. But his eyes had turned cold, distant. Ziana felt a flicker of discomfort. Something in her gut told her something wasn't right. But she forced a smile. Rajesh, unaware, laughed freely, sipping his wine without worry. When the night wound down, Ishanvir gently invited both of them to the basement. He said he had something special to show them, something from his military days. The basement was a solemn space filled with medals, flags, and framed memories from his years of service. But that night, it became something else entirely. As soon as the door closed behind them, the air turned heavy. Without a word, Ishanvir opened a drawer and pulled out the DNA report. He flung the papers in front of them. Ziana's face turned ghostly white. Her hands trembled. Her knees buckled. Rajesh froze, staring at the report, unable to speak. Then, Ishanvir opened a hidden safe in the wall. From it, he pulled out a pistol, a piece he had always kept as a keepsake from his first deployment. That night, it became something far darker. Ziana collapsed to the floor, sobbing, begging him to listen. But he wasn't listening anymore. His eyes were cold, distant, hollow. The first shot echoed through the basement. Rajesh fell instantly, his expression still twisted in panic. The second shot came seconds later. Ziana crumpled before the man she had once vowed to love forever. Then came silence, deep, chilling silence. There were no screams, no panic. Ishanvir simply stood there, breathing heavily, surrounded by the smell of gunpowder and blood. Slowly, he began to clean up, not with panic, but with the precision of a trained soldier. He dragged the bodies through the back door of the villa, staging it as if the two had disappeared. He loaded Rajesh's body into his car, drove it into the forest, and left it at the edge of a ravine to make it look like an accident. Every detail was carefully planned, like a military operation. The next morning, Ishanvir returned to his base as if nothing had happened. Calm, composed, quiet. The following day, when Ziana and Rajesh hadn't returned from the villa, the housekeeper grew concerned. Ziana was never careless. She always informed someone when she was going out. She tried calling both of them. No answer. The interrogation was intense, but still, Ishanvir didn't break. His eyes remained unreadable. He didn't show the slightest hint of remorse, just a quiet resignation, as if he had already made peace with his actions. The police focused on the motive. Everyone was asking why. What had driven this soldier, this father, this husband, to murder his wife and his closest friend? Was it betrayal? Was it the result of a strained marriage? Or was it something deeper, a darkness that had always been there, hidden beneath the surface? But no one would ever know the full answer. As the case moved to trial, the grief and confusion hung heavy over the family. Aryan and Kabir, The children he had once loved with all his heart had to face the brutal reality that their father, who they thought they knew so well, had done something unspeakable. How could they ever trust anyone again? The trial was lengthy, but the outcome was never in doubt. With the overwhelming evidence against him, Ishanveer was found guilty of double murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, and the courtroom erupted in disbelief. The once proud soldier, now a criminal, was led away in handcuffs, his future as uncertain as the love he had once shared with his family. The villa in Korg was abandoned. Its halls, once filled with laughter, now stood silent. The memories that had been made there, the love that had seemed so real, now felt like a distant ghost. As we draw this story to a close, we reflect on the complexities of human emotions, betrayal, and the consequences of choices that ripple through the lives of those involved. This narrative not only explores the fragility of trust, but also sheds light on how even the most stable of relationships can fall apart when left unchecked. It serves as a reminder to always cherish the connections we have, communicate openly, and never let the silence of doubt fester. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this story. We hope that the themes and lessons from this journey have resonated with you in a meaningful way. This content has been crafted with the intent to both entertain and educate, offering insights into human nature, relationships, and the importance of personal responsibility. We would like to express our deepest gratitude for your attention and support. If you've enjoyed this story, be sure to stay tuned for more compelling content like this on our channel. Remember, there is always something new and insightful to discover here, whether it's thought-provoking narratives or intriguing real-life lessons. The stories presented here are fictional and created for entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real events, people, or situations is purely coincidental. The content is designed to engage readers through storytelling and is not intended to promote or glorify harmful actions. The lessons within these stories are meant to inspire thought, reflection, and learning, not to encourage any form of behavior portrayed. Viewer discretion is advised.